Hey everybody, welcome to the Lotus Podcast. This is episode 5, titled Be Grounded. I'm Heather Weebner, here to bring you some inspiration today. And we're going to talk about the topic of being grounded and not being grounded. So first of all, the word grounding, grounded has many different meanings. Everything from an electrical term, grounding wires, to disciplining your kids, grounding them from their electronics, seeing their friends, their phones, whatever. So grounding has a lot of different meanings. The one I want to discuss with you today is personal grounding. So that means being grounded mentally, emotionally, and maybe spiritually, depending what that means to you. So let's talk about, first of all, you need to know if you're grounded. How do you know if you're grounded? So think about the things I'm going to discuss with you. If you can say, yes, I feel like I'm that, well, then you might be a grounded person. Now, grounding is something that comes and goes, really. Some people are grounded more often than others. Some people are really good at grounding themselves in every situation. They can sort of get their bearings and ground. Other people flounder, and it doesn't come easy for them. So this is something that can be learned. The first step, again, is recognizing it. So let's talk about that. So a person who's grounded, a lot of times they have a feeling of being at ease and they feel stable in their world. And that can mean emotionally, mentally, spiritually. They also have a very strong sense of purpose. So everybody has a purpose. You wake up in the morning and what are you going to do today? It can be as simple as, a Saturday, I'm going to get the laundry done. I have to get the groceries, I'm going to take care of all that stuff, make sure my kids have a good day, and then we're going to do something fun. That's my purpose for the day. It can be as serious as, a surgeon going into surgery, saving 3 lives. That could be, his purpose that day or her purpose that day. So having a good sense of purpose is also a trait of someone who's grounded. Another one is deeply trusting yourself and loving yourself. They kind of go hand in hand. But deeply trusting yourself, everybody has that gut instinct, and we're always told to trust our gut. And when you trust your gut, that's your inner self telling you what you need to do or what you should do. And oftentimes that is a grounding force. When you deeply trust yourself, you're able to lean on that gut instinct or that gut feeling and become grounded with that. And, trusting and loving yourself at the end of the day, really, if you break everything else away, you have you. So trust and love for yourself is of utmost importance. So someone who is grounded also has to be strong in their self-worth. And by that, I mean not being easily influenced by others' feelings or ideas. When you have a good, strong self-worth, you know that you're worthy of whatever it is you're doing or whatever it is you want. You have that sense of high self-worth. So keep that in mind too. Maintaining balance. That is also key for someone who is grounded. Obviously, if you do too much of a good thing, that's not good. Too much of a bad thing, that's not good. So finding a balance is key in staying grounded. When you think about a seesaw, you find balance, and the seesaw balances when one side goes down or the other side goes down. It isn't balanced, and you're not really grounded. So when you think about that, if there are 2 people on the ends of the seesaw, when the seesaw is balanced, both of their feet are on the ground. When it goes like this, one person is off the ground. Same way this way. So what I'm trying to say is that's a good visual for you when you think about a seesaw. It's balanced. Everybody's feet are on the ground. So balance is important. My husband has a great term. He always says, work hard, play hard. So that is kind of like one of our mottos in our family. We work really hard, but then we also play really hard. So that balance is important. And it's not always easy to keep that either, but it's something to be aware of. The other thing is being mindful. Someone who's grounded is mindful. And that means that you're consciously present in the moment. I can give you an example of this if you're not sure what mindful really means. It's when you're talking to someone, or they're talking to you, I should say, and you have 1,000 things running through your head. I need to go pick up the dry cleaning. Oh, that's right, I have to do this. You have all these thoughts going on. You're not really focused on what they're saying. They're talking, you're catching like every 10th word with one ear open, and then you throw them an occasional to be polite, but you are not listening, and you could not recite back what they just said because you weren't paying attention. So being mindful is being in the moment, and it's being able to mentally compartmentalize and put your task list aside, look at them, listen to what they're saying. If they're asking you for advice, offer it. If they just need an ear to bend, well, then let it be yours. So that's being in the moment, being mindful, really being consciously present. Another trait of someone who's grounded is that they don't worry. They don't worry very much. They kind of are grounded in the fact that things will come and go. It's going to be okay. They're not easily shaken, and they don't constantly think of the what ifs. I have been in situations where I get worked up, especially when it's with my kids. I worry about them sometimes, and well, what if this or what if that? And someone who's grounded doesn't really use that what if mentality. So if you say that a lot, what if this, what if that, if that's foremost in your thoughts, you may be a little bit ungrounded, and that's okay. So what I want you to know is those are things, and there are lots more, and people that are grounded don't have all of these things going on all the time. That's what I want you to realize. I am grounded and ungrounded sometimes in an hour's worth of time, depending on what's going on. I'm feeling grounded and something happens, and I can quickly, we call it, unglued. I become unglued or ungrounded, and it happens. There was some crazy events in our world this past week, and I know that lots of people became ungrounded through all of that. And having the recognition of being grounded or needing to be grounded is key in figuring out how to do that. So now that you know what grounding kind of looks like, I'm sure you can think of a time in your life when you felt like, oh, I'm grounded in this. I'm solid. I feel good. I'm stable. We have parts of our day that feel grounded. We have parts, like chunks of our life, that feel grounded, weeks, months, even years. And it can go the other way too. We have points that we feel ungrounded, and that again can be moments, weeks, months, years. We can go years without being grounded. So let me talk to you what it feels like, or what it looks like to be ungrounded. So visualize a leaf or a feather or a plastic bag. So pick one of those three items in your mind: a leaf, a feather, or a plastic bag. Now you're holding that, and you step outside on the very windiest day of the year, and you let that item go. Well, what's going to happen on the windiest day of the year with one of those really lightweight objects? It's going to go every direction. It's going to swirl. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. It might touch the ground and take off again. It has no real direction. It's just floating and swirling. So that is you when you're ungrounded, basically. That's the feeling that it kind of gives. You're all over the place. You can't get your head together. You can't, focus on things. So that's what it feels like to be ungrounded. You feel vulnerable. You're thrown off balance easily and quickly. You might be having a conversation, and in that conversation, you become ungrounded. You have no clear direction. You're often upset, angry, kind of spacey. And someone who responds by emotions first is usually ungrounded, because a grounded person will think things through. They're very level-headed, and they try to do what is right for everyone in the situation. An ungrounded person is a lot of times extremely emotional in their response, and they think and act on their emotion because they're not grounded to pull that down, and they can't really see the big picture when they're in that emotionally ungrounded state. Another thing that you might notice if you're ungrounded is overeating or staying up too late many nights in a row when you know you should be going to bed, and you're really tired the next day, and you get angry at yourself because you stayed up but you didn't go to bed early. So what are you angry about? Well, you do it again the next night, and it's that cycle of not so good choices for yourself. So that's also indication that someone is not grounded when they're making decisions that aren't the best. So picking fights is another one. If we all kind of get grouchy or grumpy at times. And picking fights is something that people will do sometimes when they're ungrounded, because they're looking for something to dig at. That if they put someone else down, they feel better about themselves. And that's an indicator that you might be ungrounded and you're just grasping for something to feel better. Becoming obsessed about a comment that someone made to you, or an idea or a situation, that can also be an indicator that you're ungrounded, because someone who's grounded, they hear what you have to say. They might not like it, but they're probably not going to react, because at the end of the day, they're able to let the little not so good moments of their day just slip away. Those that are not grounded have issue with just letting that stuff slide, or, forgiving and forgetting, I should say. So I want you to know that you go back and forth between being grounded and not being grounded. But in our world right now, it's important to recognize that grounding keeps you calm. Grounding doesn't mean you have to give up your convictions. If you feel strongly about something, go with it. But stay grounded in the fact that you make your decisions, very carefully. And even though you might go back and forth between grounding and ungrounding, at the end of the day, grounding is really, really good. Now, being centered, I'm going to throw that one in. We were talking about grounding and ungrounding, but I'm going to throw in centered, because I can almost not talk about centered when I'm talking about grounding. So think of it this way. If you're centered, it's even a more in-depth version of grounding. So I like to think of a castle, and if you are centered, you're in the middle of that castle, sitting on a throne. You're in the castle, you're protected, you're good, everything is right in your world, you're centered. That's a good place to be. I'm sure you can think about points in your life where things are rolling along, maybe you're in a new relationship, things are going great, and you feel completely centered. You got a promotion at work and you're feeling really good about it. It's what you've always wanted, and you're centered. You feel good about these things. So when you're grounded, think about it as you're in the moat around the castle, swimming laps around the castle. So even though you're connected to the castle and, you have this constant grounding, every now and then you want to come in and see what's going on at the throne. So when you're grounded, it's good. You're protecting the castle. It's all well. And then every now and then you need to come inside and be centered, so that you have that place of comfort and security, and you can stay grounded by visiting that place. So grounded, ungrounded, and centered. You can be all of those things at once sometimes, within minutes. So anyway, now that we've talked about that, let's talk about some ways that you can become grounded. If you feel like you're not grounded, or you're struggling to stay grounded, I'm going to give you 5 techniques that will help you in the grounding process. So deep breathing is a really good one. And this also ties into the mindfulness that I was just discussing. Think about breathing. We breathe all day long and don't realize it. Most of the time we don't even think about it. It just happens. It's a natural part of our existence. So breathing is there. When you start to think about the breathing, you become mindful about it, and you're taking in a deep breath as far as you can, and you're feeling that, and then you exhale and you feel that go out as well. And now you're thinking about your breathing, you're thinking about what it sounds like, you're thinking about the air that you're expelling, you're thinking about how long your breath is, or how short it is, or whatever, but you're mindful in the moment of breathing, and that's what it's about. So it's kind of like life. We skim through our lives doing things that we don't really think about, but when you're mindful, you're in the present moment, and you're with every moment of whatever you're doing in that situation. So mindfulness is important. So deep breathing. So if you want to do some deep breathing exercises, sit on a chair, put your feet on the floor, close your eyes, and just think about the way you're taking in your breath. I suggest doing this without a mask because it's a whole lot easier. But take in a nice deep breath as far as you can go and feel it go down into your body, and then hold it for a second and let it exhale. Go in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then try that like 10 times. And every time you breathe, see if you can breathe a little bit deeper, reach another part, a little bit deeper. You'll feel it. And just do that like 10 times. It's enough to reset you and to make you feel mindful that you were thinking about that now. It's just not a natural thing that doesn't need attention. So that's mindfulness, and that's a deep breathing exercise. The other thing is keeping your feet on the ground, physically keeping your feet on the ground. I'm very short, and so when I sit on the couch, sometimes I can't touch the ground. My feet just dangle. So it's important for me. I feel much more secure when I'm sitting on something and my feet are on the floor. I feel secure, and grounding is another one of those things that you don't think about, but you need to, again, be mindful of it. Putting your feet on the floor. If you're sitting on a chair, scoot front a little bit and put your feet flat on the floor and feel that floor under you. It is literally the ground. My family and I like to do something called earthing, and that's just walking through like a grass meadow or your yard, somewhere where it's safe to be barefoot. And we like to walk in, especially at dusk in the evening when the grass is kind of cool. We love to go earthing, we call it, barefooted, and just feel that ground and connect with that. The other thing is to limit social media and the news. We can oftentimes get spun up by what we see, what we hear. At the end of the day, is most of that stuff that we hear and see affecting us in our daily life? Like, what happened at the Capitol this week? It happened, I saw it, and I was home here in my little house, miles and miles and miles away. Did that really affect my day? No, I still ate dinner. I still, got my shower in the morning. I still went to work. My kids got on the bus. The dog still barked. So when I think about limiting the media and social avenues like that, it's helpful for me, because I just need to worry about my little world most of the time and what's going on there. I'm not dismissing any of the bigger issues out there. But limiting those exposures can also help you stay grounded. If you sat and watched media for 12 hours straight or 15 hours straight, you might get conflicting reports, and then that might confuse you, and it goes on and on and on and on, and you're not sure what to believe. And as this goes on, you get a little bit more hyperactive and you become ungrounded in the process. So I'm not saying cut out all that stuff. Obviously, you're on social media if you're watching me, so I don't want you to leave, but certainly make sure that you limit the exposure that you have, and think of it more as a treat, not as a lifestyle. Nature is another big one. I mentioned earthing, and I will often refer to nature in my podcast because it's a really big part of what keeps me grounded. So, just walking out in the woods or taking a walk around your neighborhood. And in the springtime, it's really fun when the bulbs and the flowers are coming up and, everything's coming back alive. That's always a really fun time to connect with nature. Any season is good. The colors of autumn are beautiful. The bare branches in winter are just mysterious to me. I love that. And getting out in nature also gives you a calming sense, because at the end of the day, the sun is going to rise the next morning and set the next evening. The birds are still going to chirp. The oceans are still going to roar. I've never been to the beach where the waves didn't lap against the shore. They never stop. So nature gives you that renewed sense of resilience, and that can help keep you grounded, because those things are tried and true and they're not going anywhere. So nature is a huge helper in grounding. The other thing is, when you become ungrounded and you feel maybe lost, and remember I talked about that sense of purpose. If you're not feeling a sense of purpose and you just kind of feel lost, and we all have those like seasons of life where we feel that way, think about serving others. That's a great tool to use and to execute so that you can have a purpose. Even if you have to create that purpose, you're serving someone else who might need it. It could be volunteering at a food bank or a shelter, or making a meal for someone who needs it. Just serving others any way you can is also very grounding in a roundabout way. And you will find if you do that, it has benefits that are far-reaching, more than you could imagine. So, in review, the 5 things that will help you be or stay grounded are deep breathing, being mindful about that. Number 2, keep your feet on the ground. Earthing is what I like to call it. Number 3, limit social media and news. Number 4, connect with nature. And, I'm not saying you have to go on a 12-hour hike. Just connect with nature. Be out there, be in the moment. And serving others. That's a win-win for everybody involved. So I hope you'll take these suggestions and think about staying grounded. It's really important, in times of turmoil and disconnect, to stay grounded. So I'm encouraging you to use these tips and strategies and stay grounded, be grounded. All right, now go be the light, love, and be loved. Talk to you soon.